The lone rogue whose family was tragically killed by goblins is a common trope in Dungeons & Dragons. Trust me, I have used that character backstory. And for some tables, that brand of tragic yet shallow story is enough for fighting monsters, finding treasure, and doing it all over again. But if you're like me and many others enjoying D&D in the age of Critical Role, where we see professional actors pour their hearts out between lots of jokes and fighting monsters, you want more. Family, love, and food are the most important things in our lives that are often left out of our D&D campaigns. So this time on the Builders Guild, we're joining hands and breaking bread with the creators behind the Adventurer's Domestic Handbook and the Joy of Monster Cooking to make a home for love and food in Dungeons & Dragons. Hi, Bob here, and welcome to Bob World Builder, where we learn how to have more fun playing D&D together. At the end of this video, I'm going to reveal some details of my own next DM's Guild project and give you the first look at the brand new cover. So stick around to see it and hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with weekly DM guides and D&D news. This month's Builders Guild show is sponsored by the authors of 2 amazing books, and there are affiliate links for both in the description so you can check them out and support this community. Let's begin with our main feature, The Adventurer's Domestic Handbook by Lydia Van Hoy, Sierra Perry, Kayla Byans, and Sadie Lowry. It's about 150 pages and it covers everything from role-playing courtship without making anyone feel uncomfortable, to marriage ceremonies, raising children, and how adventurers can support their families at home or abroad. And it has highly detailed sections about owning and operating different kinds of businesses. And you know it all checks out because the project lead is a full-time creator and a parent. There are also 15 new subclasses, 6 new backgrounds, 6 new feats, 29 NPCs, 14 new magic items, and beautiful artwork. So to share their inspiration for this book and what they hope it can bring to your table, here are 2 of the authors, Ciara and Kay.
My passion and my reason for being part of writing the Adventurer's Domestic Handbook really stems from my belief in the healing power of roleplay. I come from a family that has experienced its fair share of trauma, and it's really been so helpful and healing for me to be able to create my own families and my own worlds. And I really wanted to be able to bring that to more people.
We wanted to show that what people believe to be mundane isn't, that it's magical, that building a community or a family or a home or business, all of these things have their own magics, and together they can create really fantastic things that really inspire players and really take a campaign in a direction that has a richness to it that you don't expect. Plus we want you to have fun.
Healing, magic, and fun from the mundane. Think about it. For people who don't play fantasy games, love is as magical as it gets. And I firmly believe that fantasy is better when it's tangible and grounded in real-world experience. I think the authors agree because they recommend playing through these in-game relationships, both romantic and familial, in a natural way, where dice and persuasion checks have little if anything to do with it. So, before I share my favorite parts of this book, here's Sadie to give us some of the highlights.
From the beginning, the Adventurer's Domestic Handbook was about home and hearth. And that makes it really hard to pick a single favorite part. I think that the marriage ceremonies, that's you taking your past and your love into a special union between you and someone you love. The subclasses, that's about you taking that love that you feel for others and bringing that unity and support onto the battlefield. Even with the NPCs, they're people with their own stories, their own desires, their goals, their fears, and you're helping them with that. You're reaching out to them. We want to create that strength both at and away from the table, because there is strength in those bonds. There is strength in being together.
As humans, we are wired to want those strong bonds more than anything. It's why we're drawn to social games like D&D. But that pressure for acceptance also makes us terrified of showing any emotional vulnerability, even when we're pretending to be a bird person. Love you, Barty. For a real example, my edgy rogue tiefling that I mentioned at the beginning is in a new relationship with one of our party's sidekicks, and it's a little weird for me, even though it's very innocent. I do most of the role-playing, and my fiancé is the DM. So I love how this book helps you practice at the table and still maintain a separation between you and the character. And looking forward to my own wedding and whenever we can have gatherings again, I really enjoyed this section with 20 marriage ceremonies themed for different classes, races, and backgrounds. Like the Thieves' Pact, where the Thieves Guildmaster assigns a dangerous job for the couple to complete together, all the wedding gifts are stolen property, and the newlyweds get matching tattoos between their shoulder blades, signifying their trust, even when their backs are turned. Perfect for my edgy rogue tiefling. And as much as I like some of the NPCs and subclasses, my favorite sections are the ones about owning a business and buying land, because these were major points in my recent video here about the 50 ways to spend gold. And the official 5e rulebooks just don't build a good framework for this. But the Adventurer's Domestic Handbook builds you a whole house. It's so thorough that, frankly, I don't plan to use all of the details, but like any good rulebook allows, you're easily able to pick and choose what is right for your game. And my only complaint is very nitpicky. The table of contents does not indent the titles of longer subsections, so at first glance I had real trouble reading it, and I wish these sections were all smart linked to make navigating the book more easy as a PDF. But overall, I'm a big fan, and it's an Electrum level bestseller with all 5-star ratings, so I highly recommend the Adventurer's Domestic Handbook. And before we get to the food and my cover reveal, here's the project lead, Lydia, with a special thank you and an announcement of their own.
I think I speak for the entire team when I say thank you to everyone who's bought the Domestic Handbook, who's had anything nice to say about it or left a good review. It's been really heartwarming to see how much people enjoy it. We've got a sequel sort of coming up with 50 more NPCs, some character options, and other little goodies, so something for you guys to look forward to.
Definitely looking forward to those extra NPCs, but your fantasy home would not be complete without a good meal every once in a while. So I present to you The Joy of Monster Cooking by Chris Boudreau and Lex Mandrake. 20 pages of fantastic dishes to flavor your adventures. 3 soups, 3 sauces, 5 appetizers, 7 entrees, based on ingredients from 17 monsters. There's new rules for cooking, a new tool set of chef's utensils, and a chef background that gives your adventurer a special treatment in restaurants of the realms. Plus, these dishes do actually have mechanical benefits that vary based on how well your chef prepares them. For one example, here's the chul paella. There's a large flat iron pan full of rice and chul sitting over an open fire. The sun is setting, you hunker back in your seat, cup of wine in hand, out of the dungeon, out of harm, back with friends. Time to eat. Nothing says camaraderie like victory over a terrifyingly large lobster creatures like this communal dish. The key to mastering this dish is in not overcooking the chul. When raw, the flesh of the chul is slippery and almost translucent. When heat is applied, it quickly turns pink and opaque, and that is exactly when you should take the pan off the heat, not a moment later. Overcooked chul can be chalky and tough, ruining what should be a relaxing meal. The recipe itself actually looks pretty good, and I'm only now considering if you could actually use it with real-world ingredients. But then there's the result, Lobster Sense, basically giving you the detect magic spell at will for 1 hour. I love the formatting and layout of this book because it really feels like a cookbook that you could find in a fantasy setting, and it pairs very well with their new expansion of devilish desserts. My critique for this book is that it includes several recipes for playable monsters like kobolds and goblins, so the authors leave it up to you to decide what's okay to eat, but you could easily swap out these creatures with less questionable monsters. And as always, I wouldn't be sharing this book with you if I didn't think it was awesome. It's a platinum bestseller rated 4.8 out of 5, and it's well worth the price for spicing up your adventures. Now for our special announcement. The Humble Bullywug crossed my mind a few weeks ago, and I decided to make a playable version with a nicer name, the Friendly Wug. Then I tweeted about it, I got some more ideas, and some offers from artists who wanted to help make it a reality. So for the first look, here is the cover of my next DM's Guild project, Friendly Wug and Friends, 8 playable peoples for your 5e adventures coming this summer. Like everything I do, it's family friendly and focused on fun. So yeah, some of these races might be a little overpowered, but you're easily able to remove any features you don't like. For more updates, make sure you hit the little bell here on YouTube, follow me on Twitter where I've been sharing some of the abilities, and join the Pillar or Keystone tier on Patreon, because those generous patrons will get a full draft version before the official release on the Guild. And all Keystone patrons will be credited in the published supplement, just like they're credited in the patrons-only supplements that I publish every single month. So thank you to Saint Jernagris and Kit for joining Patreon this week. Thank you Lydia and Lex for sponsoring this episode of the Builders Guild. Thank you for watching and all your support, and keep building.